The purpose of the introduction section of the Phonomantic Rite is straightforward. It welcomes people to the ritual. Then it explains the ritual can be various things depending on one's intent and experience. A raucous dance party, worship of the Divine Mother, psychic workout, therapy session, or any combination thereof. It explains that fundamentally, the rite is a practical demonstration of phonomancy, and then defines it. Phonomancy is a process of singing and dancing to recorded music while under the influence of a psychedelic in order to achieve visionary trance states. Finally, the introduction describes the structure of the ceremony. Invocation of the Divine Mother, the processional, the stereo myth, the transcendental disco, the Anne Frank working, and the recessional. After that, we move into the invocation of the angels of the cardinal directions. Psychologically, the invocation of the angels of the cardinal directions is part of creating the correct set and setting for a psychedelic experience. I want anyone taking part in the rite to be in the appropriate frame of mind to help us achieve our ritual goals, to have the right mindset. I also need to create the proper physical setting. Another way to put this is opening the space. But I didn't want to simply ape traditional practices to do so. The Phonomantic Rite was self-consciously novel. It needed a unique approach, so rather than using traditional prayers, I came up with my own. That said, there are obvious influences. In the ayahuasca ceremonies I'd attended, the ritual use of tobacco was an important element. Tobacco is regarded as a master teacher plant. The ayahuasqueros use a South American variety whose scientific name is Nicotina rustica. It's also known as mapacho. In the invocation of the angels of the cardinal directions, I use mapacho to clear the space of bad energy and serve as a vessel for my intent by blowing smoke after each line of the prayer. Appealing to the angels of the four directions was based in part on a vision of the Archangel Michael I had in an ayahuasca ceremony, and also a nod to my lapsed Catholicism. But I wrote my own science-fictional appeal to the angels. Gabriel, messenger of divine light, machine of loving grace, please open in this space a high bandwidth channel between us and the mind of God. It's serious, but it's also funny, to me anyway, which is exactly the tone I want to convey. Light in approach, heavy in intent. I included the entreaties to Gaia Mother Earth and our quote-unquote extraterrestrial cousins as a nod to more traditional forms of indigenous shamanism in their prayers for blessing. Again, it's humorous, but it's not a joke. As the participants and I follow along with the video and recite the invocation, we take ritual action too, turning to face south to call in Michael, then west for Gabriel, north for Uriel, west for Raphael. We address the ground to call in Mother Earth and the ceiling to call in ET. When people perform these kinds of movements in unison, it helps create the sense that we are now in a sacred space. The ceremony then moves into the invocation of the Divine Mother. This is more development of set and setting. Rituals are designed to create certain kinds of experiences in their participants. Someone attending a Catholic Mass will have one sort of experience, based around a coherent set of images, and someone worshipping via Hindu puja will expect something else entirely. The Phonomantic Rite, this version of it anyway, is ultimately intended to create an experience of the Divine Feminine, so it starts by invoking her presence. It does this using 3 songs. Lady O by the Turtles, Explain by Jeremy Einik of Sunny Day Real Estate, Mother of Love by the Velvet Teen. What these 3 songs have in common, besides being gentle and pretty, is that they evoke a feeling of yearning. This emotional target is there in the plaintive melodies, but also, unmistakably, in the lyrics. This feeling can be interpreted as romantic desire, but by projecting it onto the Holy Ma, it becomes religious devotion. This is accomplished by singing along to the songs, but repurposing the lyrics. For instance, in the song Lady O, the first verse goes, "While you sit and seek a crescent moon is laying at your feet with..." This is a reference to the High Priestess card in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. The High Priestess is often connected to the mother goddess Isis, so it's not too much of a leap to imagine you were singing this song to the goddess herself, with the appropriate emotional response. Singing along was not part of this practice at its inception. At first, I just listened intently to the music. But by the 4th or 5th time I was performing the ceremony, I'd noticed a marked increase in my anxiety as the medicine began to have an effect. I remembered something Terence McKenna had said, "If you get scared, sing."
When everything begins to slide, the thing to do is to sing.
So I did. And not only did I immediately feel better, I noticed a difference in what I was seeing in terms of closed-eye visuals. The psychedelic kaleidoscope of colored fractals got brighter, livelier, more complex. It was as if the mushrooms were responding to my active participation with the music. I think this has something to do with the physical vibrations in the body as the notes resonate in the chest, throat, and face, but that's entirely anecdotal. In terms of recounting visionary experience, I don't have too much to say about this part. While the closed-eye visuals, or CEV, can sometimes be strong as the medicine comes on, they are rarely interesting in terms of their content. Sometimes you'll see things with incredible clarity, but it's often mundane, like someone folding their laundry. Or it'll be sort of ostensibly frightening, like seeing an alley bounded by a tall wooden fence with a carnival on the other side, and the scene's pervaded by a sense that there's something ugly lurking nearby. I believe that these initial images are representative of what's in your local psychic space. That is to say, entities or spirits that are trying to seize your attention and thus gain a little bit of life. If I was practicing shamanism within a specific tradition, or trained as a magician, I might have had better psychic defenses in place to cope with such things. Instead, I've pretty much lived out Roger Allen Wade's dictum, if you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough. Over dozens and dozens of ceremonies, I've stumbled into these spaces and been preyed upon. It's often been extremely unpleasant. But at this point, I can confidently assert that if you concentrate on believing, which is to say, fixing on the Holy Ma as a literal reality, not just a metaphor, but a person for whom you have strong feelings, you will remain utterly unaffected by these things. The most effective method for achieving this state of belief is simply speaking out loud to an imaginary person. Here's the thing. You cannot feel, at least initially, real emotion for a god. A god is an abstraction, an image that stands for an experience. But the goddess will be whatever you need them to be. Here's what I mean. I'm single. What I wanted most in the world was to fall in love and get married, but things haven't worked out that way. I carry a lot of lonely heartache. But it's okay, because what I've learned how to do is to use that learning to speak to the imaginary woman who is everything I'd ever hoped for in a wife. Like, not only are you so beautiful that it hurts me to look at you, not only are you scarily intelligent and absolutely hilarious, the things that come out of your mouth, your ideas, make my jaw drop in wonder. You are an absolute genius, and pretty much all I want out of life at this point is to help you realize your mad schemes. I cannot believe that you've chosen me as your partner. I'd go through all the bullshit of my life again 100 times to get to be with you here and now. To me, you are the incontrovertible evidence that God is real and is my biggest fan. I say all that aloud, spontaneously, and as I do, I really start to feel it. I feel that love. I feel it like she's sitting there right in front of me. And I use the songs playing that I'm singing along to express that love. Remember that in its most basic form, the Phonomantic Rite is a playlist of music videos. Once I get a good head of steam going with those feelings, I make the target of those emotions the images of the divine feminine on the computer monitor. At a certain point, I'm no longer in love with an imaginary woman, but with an imaginary goddess. And because I am starting to trip harder and harder on a high dose of psychedelics, by the time I'm singing the last song of the Invocation, she's not imaginary at all. She's real. That is, I am experiencing her as real. I believe. She becomes a refuge from any anxiety I might be feeling or any alarming images that might arise in my closed-eye visions. Because make no mistake, once you've been doing this stuff a while, resistance, that is, the force in the universe that is the enemy of creativity and meaning, will already be battering you at this point, barely 15 minutes into the ritual. But the great thing is, once you start believing, that very assault only supports that belief. That's how I do it. Because this version of the Phonomantic Rite is a portrait of the divine as I understand and experience it. When you are performing the Phonomantic Rite, you can approach the divine the way I do, or substitute any image that's meaningful to you. The key is making it personal. The goddess can be mother, father, child, wife, best friend, favorite auntie. She is all things, so she can be anything. Whoever you need most in your life, approach her in that form, and that is how she will incarnate in your consciousness. All right, thus endeth the lesson on how to work with the introduction and the invocations of the First Church of David Bowie Phonomantic Rite. In our next video, we'll talk about the processional. Until then, I'm Dammit, reminding you to say fuck yes to every pleasure and every pain in life. Do it for your ma. I'm an alligator. I'm a mama, papa coming for you.